Hey guys, I am back and finally here with a recap of my 300-hour yoga teacher training. And the reason I am finally making this video is because I have gotten some feedback on my Instagram about what it was like going through yoga teacher training, and what are some of the things to consider before you do become a yoga teacher. So that being said, I'm going to give a kind of a recap of the 300-hour, but I'm going to toss in some information about the 200-hour teacher training as well, because I feel like that's where most people start. So I am going to start with the 200-hour training, which I did back in 2013 through the same yoga school that I did my 300-hour training at, which is Essentia Yoga. And I will put their website and link down below so that you can go check them out if you're interested. So first for me, for wanting to become a yoga teacher, sorry, I just got some hair in my mouth. Wanting to become a yoga teacher, I actually found yoga in my high school PE class. And basically I was doing a class called Fit for Life, and throughout that program, we tried all these different types of exercises in order to learn what's out there and figure out a way that we can be healthy and stay active for the rest of our lives. And during that process, we actually did a yoga class. And one of the first yoga classes that I ever ended up taking was actually on a VHS tape, and it was by Rodney Yee, who is a very well-known yoga teacher in the world today. But so that was kind of my introduction, and at first I liked it. It was always like my favorite PE class to do because it was the least challenging for me, which is kind of ironic because yoga is not that easy. I'm actually finding it to be more difficult the longer I practice it. But it felt the most simple, just based on all the other stuff that we were doing. And I was coming from a very competitive volleyball background. And so it felt like this nice release and like this time for me to relax, which was really nice. So I did that. Fast forward, I go to college for, exercise science, all of these things. And throughout that process, for one of my projects, I actually taught my class in college how to do sun salutations, which I wasn't a yoga teacher at the time, but I found them very interesting, and I was kind of doing them on my own every now and then. So I taught my class as a class project how to do sun salutations, and one of the students actually asked me, or one of my classmates asked me if I was a yoga teacher, and I was like, well, no, I'm not a yoga teacher. That's crazy. Like, why? No. And so I guess at that point, the seed kind of got planted in my head of like, maybe I should be a yoga teacher. So I kept going through college, and then the year or the summer between when I graduated college and decided to go back to school to become a dietitian, that is when I got my yoga teacher training. And it was literally where's the schools around me? That's where I started. I'm like, who teaches yoga around here? Like, how can I become a yoga teacher? And the Essentia was one of the closest studios to me, which was actually about an hour away, which is kind of funny at the time. And because there weren't many studios in my area. And so I called the studio, and we had a couple conversations, and just the way that the studio owner, Janine, communicated with me and just kind of talked things through, I was like, yeah, totally, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go through your school. And it was kind of like that. So for me to become a school to go to was really simple, and kind of impromptu. But I would recommend, researching some schools around you, but also take some of their classes. Figure out what style of yoga that they teach, because not all schools teach the same types of yoga. And you also want to make sure that the school is Yoga Alliance certified, which means that they are an accredited school, meaning that they can give you that full 200-hour, well-balanced experience to become a registered yoga teacher. Now, that being said, what a registered yoga teacher is someone who has gone through a minimum of 200 hours of teacher training, but they also have to continue their education and keep that registration up. And what that looks like is something like going to seminars, going to workshops, reading books, even conferences and things like that to keep up those hours of experience, because in any discipline that you do, you start to realize that the more you learn, the less you actually know, or the less you realize you know. And yoga is like that 200 hours is such a small amount of time, but it opens this world up to you to go, whoa, this is like a 4,000-year-old practice that I have only studied 200 hours of, and it's pretty amazing. So that being with that, all of that, every school kind of prices a little bit different. There is kind of a baseline, and that does change year to year. So definitely check in with the school and see how much the school costs, and if it fits in your budget, if there's what the timeline looks like. Some schools offer more of an intensive where it's like this 2-week kind of retreat and you focus and you get those 200 hours in. Other schools allow you to take it at your own pace and maybe finish it within a year. So that is definitely some questions that you would want to ask your school that you are interested in becoming a yoga teacher through. So that's that. Yeah, so that's kind of the basics. Now, when you actually start yoga teacher training and you have your curriculum, they'll give you maybe a binder or an online curriculum to go through, and be diligent. Treat it like any other school, but it'll be a little bit different because you'll get both physical practice and kind of readings and books and that kind of thing. So that's pretty a little bit more unique to yoga, because you actually get to practice teach and you get to physically learn the process of teaching yoga, which is pretty cool. Trying to think here, some other things. So actually, I've been very, very positive throughout this whole video so far about the yoga teacher training experience. But of course, I want to be real. And so some of the negatives for a yoga teacher training is the monetary aspect. It's not super cheap. It's doable, but you have to plan for it. The second one is, again, making sure that the school is registered and that you vibe with your teacher well. If you don't like your teacher, it's going to be a struggle and you could burn out very quickly. So make sure you get to know your teacher, take their classes, get their vibe so that you can better choose the school that's right for you, basically. Yeah, I just had such a great experience with my 200-hour training that I don't have much else to say, but I could imagine that, if you go into a teacher training and you're not wanting to be a teacher, it could be overwhelming if you're learning to just deepen your practice. But there is that opportunity. But yeah, the biggest thing that I could see going wrong is if you don't mesh with your teacher well, or if their style or type of yoga doesn't resonate with you. So for example, let's say that you really love to work out and you go to a yoga school that focuses all on restorative and relaxing and yin kind of classes. That may be what you like to practice, or it may be not what you like to practice. And if that's not what you want to teach, and they don't offer too much more, then you might not enjoy yourself as much as if they offered a more physical practice or a more all-encompassing kind of a practice. So keep those things in mind. Next part I want to talk about is the 300 hour. So the 300 hour is kind of your next step in yoga teaching progression, if you will. So 200 hour allows you to then teach classes. So after several years or so many hours of teaching yoga, you can then go into your 300 hour, which will then total a 500 hour program for you. So it's your 200 plus your 300. And what that does is it gives you the skills and all the requirements in order to actually train yoga teachers. So it's like the teacher teaching the teacher kind of a thing, which is really cool and is what I just went through. And let me tell you, it's next level, and it's this whole new way of looking at a yoga practice. And, you know, like, because teaching students is one thing, but teaching teachers to teach students is a whole nother thing. And it's phenomenal. And I, again, thoroughly enjoyed my experience. The only downfall I can see is if you're truly not passionate about sharing yoga, because it's a lot of information and it's a lot of pressure, but in a different, I can't find the right word right now, but it's pressure to make sure that you're giving these future teachers all the tools that they need in order to succeed. And so it feels like some pressure, right? As just teaching in general does. So again, same rules apply if you're interested in diving into that 300 hour route. There are some prerequisites based on Yoga Alliance. And all of those just updated. So let me know in the comments if you'd like for me to kind of give you an overview of what those requirements are, because they can get really confusing. And I'm happy to do that if you guys let me know down below for sure. And by the way, if you've made it this far, thank you so much. And just leave me a little smiley face in the comments as well, because I don't know, this is already a 12-minute video, and I'm so thankful if you've made it this far. So finally, I have a couple reading recommendations that you will, if you are going to teacher training, you will most likely come across these, if not be required to read them. So the first one here is the Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga. This is a very old copy, but it's by Swami Vishnu Devananda. And it's a very classic text, and it shows 146 yoga postures that are quite traditional, and then it gives a lot of history and some background information as well. So definitely check this one out. The next one that I found really helpful, having a exercise science background, is this one called Yoga Anatomy. And the really cool thing about this is that it shows you the different poses and all the muscles that are involved in that posture. So if you're struggling to understand what your physical body is doing and experiencing, this is a really good one for sure. So Yoga Anatomy. And again, I'll leave links to all of these down in the description so you can find them easily. And finally, specifically for 200-hour training, but any yoga teacher can use this one. It's called Yoga Sequencing. It's a massive book, but it details how to sequence a yoga class well, and how to structure one so that your students feel good and revitalized after your class. And there's obviously lots of different practicums, and they give you some examples, but also they talk about a little bit of everything. There's a little bit on prenatal yoga, And they break it into, like, if you're doing a 60-minute or a 75-minute or a 90-minute class, how to structure your time so that you don't either go over or run out of time. So those are my 3 kind of recommendations there to get you started. Yeah, so thank you guys for commenting and starting to help me build this little space on the internet. And I really hope that you're enjoying this. And if you have any other ideas or questions about yoga teacher training specifically, I'm happy to make a second video. As always, just leave them down in the comments. And finally, if you are interested in doing some mindful eating, I am launching a program this September 1st, actually. It's a 7-day kind of overview of what mindful eating is, with a lot of tips and tricks on how to eat more mindfully. There's going to be recipes, there's going to be daily posts, and there's going to be quick, short videos, a lot shorter than this one, quick, short videos about mindful eating, with some awesome stuff for you guys to take with you after the course is complete. So definitely check that out on my website, and I hope to see you in the comments. And of course, click that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Bye!